Hey everyone and welcome. In this video we look at our man of steel and humour. Should be a Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg, the poshest person I like, I'll be honest. And his perfect slam down of Nicola ankle-biter sturgeon's ridiculous use of lockdown in a desperate attack for independence.
And I do believe that we have rotten politics, and I'm not using that as an exaggeration.
He pretty much mic drops a wee nipper Jimmy Cranky. It's titled SNP Humiliated. There's another word I like. Commons erupts in laughter as Rees-Mogg Schools sturgeon on the facts. Sturgeon's latest BS border claims are what this is a response to. Freedom at any cost, Sturgeon said, even subservience to some other entity. What the F are you doing, Scotland? Is your freedom that cheap? Because SNP want to sell you out. They can't, but that's beside the point. Anyway, let's watch Nicola Sturgeon and her speech, shall we?
You know, there is no border between Scotland and England. I mean, it's just such an absurd statement. What there definitely is a geographical boundary to my powers as First Minister. And if the Prime Minister is questioning that now, I'm not sure what he would say if I pitched up in Newcastle and started to try to implement Scottish Government policies in Newcastle. And see what I've just said there? It's absurd too, which is why we shouldn't be having these discussions. We should be focusing, all of us, with an absolute laser-like focus on what we need to do within our own responsibilities and working together where necessary to stop a virus.
Work together where necessary? How is that possible when you fight every single decision that Westminster makes? Work together. Shut up, Sturgeon.
This is not a debate about whether or not Scotland should be independent. My views on that are known. The Prime Minister's views on that are known, although sometimes can be more fluid on a number of things. But this is not about that. This is about a virus that kills people and does a lot of damage, and everything we talk about right now should be about how we stop that. And I'm going to try my hardest, except when I'm dragged into having to respond to absurd politicised statements
that you and the SNP are making.
I'm going to try my hardest just to focus on the job at hand, because that's not just my job, that is my duty right now as First Minister, and I take it, as I said a moment ago, very serious.
Now, as you can see, Sturgeon is desperate to say Scotland and the rest of the UK have a border. Reason? It shows separation and will give her more power to ignore what the UK want and for her to do a thing, which seems to be anything opposite to blonde hair man bad. But what say you? Let's watch Rees-Mogg take her to school about borders, shall we, and how you define them. And also his end speech is perfect in my opinion. This man smashes the opposition every time he speaks. This was in response to a question from SNP MP Patrick Grady from Glasgow North about local lockdowns. And it's also a request for a debate on whether the UK, are you ready, really is one country. Wow. But anyway, let's watch.
Mr. Speaker, I never realised that our separatist friends would model themselves on a kneeling comedy. It seems to have become passport to Pimlico. There are no internal borders within the United Kingdom. It is one country, I am glad to say, and the fact that there is a difference between borders and between districts and areas. This is self-evident. A border is something that you may stop people crossing. Even I am not suggesting that we make people from Gloucestershire present their passports before coming into Somerset. And the passport to Pimlico, the honourable gentleman will remember, was when Pimlico was thought to, I think, have belonged to the Duke of Burgundy or some such, and therefore had become an independent state within the United Kingdom. Our separatist friend wants to do the same and insist on passports to Scotland, and Mrs. Sturgeon wishes to build a wall. Unfortunately, Mrs. Sturgeon's policy isn't fictional. Many of us wish that it were and that the separatists were a bit more fictional, but they're not. They're here, and they bang on about it constantly. But we are still one country, and Scotland benefits enormously from being part of the United Kingdom.
No, as you can see, that was perfect, wasn't it? As per usual, Rees-Mogg on fire again. Let's read the article, shall we? Jacob Rees-Mogg left the Commons in stitches after he brilliantly dismantled Nicola Sturgeon's latest border claims. saying that the SNP were trying to exploit lockdown in a desperate bid for independence, which they are. Jacob Rees-Mogg ruthlessly humiliated the SNP. I'm not too sure about ruthlessly humiliated. He just had a laugh at their expense, the SNP, in the House of Commons on Thursday after schooling Nicola Sturgeon on her repeated border claims. The Leader of the House fired back at SNP MP Mr Grady after he challenged Mr Mogg on his denial of a border between England and Scotland earlier that day. In response, the senior Tory left the Commons in stitches after claiming the SNP were trying to exploit lockdown in a ploy for Scottish independence. Everything they're doing at the minute is a ploy for Scottish independence. He again repeated the Prime Minister's claim from Wednesday that there is no border between Scotland and England, insisting that the UK is one country. Yes, and we vote as one country, not separatist like these idiots want. Mr Rees-Mogg said, "Mr Speaker, I never realised that our separatist friends revolved themselves on an Ealing comedy. It seems to have become passport to Pimlico." There are no internal borders within the United Kingdom. It is one country, I am glad to say. And the fact there is a difference between borders and between districts and areas. This remark, comparing Scotland to a district or area, drew huge laughter from the Conservative backbenchers. Mr Rees-Mogg continued, "This is self-evident. A border is something that you may stop people from crossing. Even I am not suggesting that we make people from Gloucestershire present their passports before coming into Somerset." So effectively likening them to a county. Passport to Pimlico, the honourable gentleman will remember, was when Pimlico was thought to belong to the Duke of Burgundy or some such, and therefore had to become an independent state within the United Kingdom. Our separatist friend wants to do the same and insist on passports to Scotland, and Mrs Sturgeon wishes to build a wall. You heard what she said. Unfortunately, Mrs Sturgeon's policy isn't fictional. Many of us, this is the best bit, many of us wish that it were, and the separatists were a bit more fictional, but they are not. They are here and they bang on about it constantly. But we're still one country, whether they like it or not, and Scotland benefits enormously from being part of the United Kingdom. And there we have it. They do benefit enormously. They're happy to take our money, but they don't want to be part of the UK. They want to build a wall. They want to be totally separatist so they can make their own judgments, even though we vote as one country democratically. Am I wrong on this front? This shot followed Miss Sturgeon's threat to impose quarantine on visitors entering Scotland from the rest of the UK if public health advice indicated it was the right thing to do. And you would lose millions you would lose with that one in tourism. But you go right ahead. On Thursday, Miss Sturgeon branded the Prime Minister's denial of the Scottish border absurd. No, it's not absurd. We are one country until you are no longer part of the country. We are one. Whether you like it or not, you voted to stay in the United Kingdom. Bolting on Brexit so that you can get your independence more than likely would not work if you actually did it to another vote for both right now. But I might be wrong on that one. You have been voted in another term. Earlier in the day, during business questions, Rees-Mogg criticised Sturgeon's shameful remarks after SNP Commons business spokesman Tom Shepherd said the government is led by someone who thinks the border does not exist. Mr Rees-Mogg replied, "He mentions borders and I noticed that Nicola Sturgeon wishes to have a wall. Perhaps she is modelling herself on other leading political figures between Scotland and England. One never thought that Nicola Sturgeon would model herself on American political figures, yeah, Trump 2020, and want to build a wall. At least a metaphorical wall, if not actually like Hadrian with the bricks and mortar." Perfect. Oh, brilliant. Now, what's my opinion? Sturgeon and the SNP, you all know my opinion on this one, really, don't you? It's just them flapping the lips. The reason they want to claim an actual border between the two countries is because they don't want the UK to govern them anymore, even though the people of Scotland said that they do. And even though Sturgeon herself is asking for even more money off the UK to help her out of a tight spot. You see what I mean? They're just hypocrites. They'll take the money, but they want out. Well, stop taking the money and prove that you could do it alone, but you won't, will you? Because you want us to continue to pay for you afterwards as well, more than likely. But let me know what you think, everyone. I want to know your opinion on this one. Is it more stupidity from the wee nipper ankle biter cranky yourself? More of the same, should I say? Or do you think this is a new tactic? Do you think, here's a question for you, do you think if the Scottish were given the option to vote for independence to jump straight back into bed with the EU, even though they were never in the EU, do you think they'd actually take her up on that offer? Or do you think they'd go, no, you're alright, it's not worth that? Because they've bolted independence onto the Brexit decision, have they not? So I'd like to know your opinion on that. If there's any Scottish out there, what's your opinions on this one? I would like to know your opinion more than most. Obviously, it affects you the most. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit the like, comment, subscribe. Share it out, everyone. Stay safe, and I'll see you on the next one.